episode of Putting the Soul Back into Psyche. In the previous video, we were discussing sort of the reductiveness of the current use of the word psyche, that we're more than just our mental processes. The body has an inherent wisdom, but we're often taught to ignore it. And no pain, no gain. It sounds great, doesn't always work well in practice, especially when it comes to our body letting us know that something's up. How does it do this? Well, it sends us what we usually will call a symptom. We have been taught to believe that these symptoms means that there's something wrong with us. I'm anxious, I'm depressed, every case is individual. But I often find that with many of my clients, their symptoms, once interpreted through a lens of a message, suddenly there's not a sort of an over-pathologizing of inhuman feeling. We're supposed to be anxious if we're in a stressful situation. And everyone's stress is different for everyone. So what might be stressful for you might not be stressful for someone else. But this is about you and your response. If you're feeling stress and you're not able to change the circumstances, your body's going to be sending you messages letting you know that it's uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It means that there's something wrong with the situation and you're responding to it. I personally believe that our mind and body want balance. And when we learn to communicate between the neck up, the mind, and then the neck down, the body, when we open a line of communication between the two, and we can learn to interpret these messages for what they are, rather than judging them and pathologizing them and saying this is a symptom, there's something wrong with me, saying my body is actually trying to help me. I'm still uncomfortable. This is not saying that depression or whatever the message is isn't uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to get your attention. We tend to ignore things unless they bother us. Because we're busy, we got things to do, we gotta go to work, we gotta feed the dog. We don't have time. We don't have time to listen to the more nuanced messages that the body might try and send us. When we first enter a stressful situation, we might get some more, nuanced messages. But we're busy and we're just going to ignore them. So the messages get louder, so that we have to listen. I find an example of, say there's a little boy and he wants some ice cream, and he's sort of tugging at his mother's shirt. And she's on the phone, and she's ignoring him because she's busy. She figures I'll get to him later. And he's saying, I want, and she's just talking to her friend, ignoring him. He gets louder and louder and more insistent. She's still ignoring him because she's doing something else. After 5 or 10 minutes of this kid is now in a full-on temper tantrum. He's on the floor, and he's pounding his fists, and he's yelling, and he's screaming. Now he has her attention. Now she looks down, she's like, what's wrong? He got her attention. Now the dynamic is that she's paying attention to his upsetness. The message got lost. the message of "I want ice cream" was never received. All she received was his being upset. Maybe our symptoms are doing the same thing. In order to get our attention, they have to get really loud and obnoxious and annoying and really uncomfortable for us to listen. But we don't listen. We think there's something wrong with us. We're often told that there's something wrong with us. Well, you have an anxiety disorder. I'm not saying that some of these labels might not be helpful. Some clients really want a diagnosis. It makes them feel more empowered. It gives them a sense of control to know that they're not the only person that this has ever happened to. They like the label. It works for them. And if you have a label and it works for you, then go with it. But if you don't want a label, it's not necessary to have a label to listen to the messages. Maybe there's nothing wrong with us. Maybe there's something right with us. I appreciate your hanging out with me today in my black background. And I'll see you in the next